Here go a class for you, my nigga. 140 for the rebel. The world turned its back on me. I'm a cripple. We got soldiers, he got soldiers, but I got different ones. Ain't no way out, I tell you once. Don't pray for nothing, sin and curse. We can't forgive what's forbidden. Remain in them trenches. Trust in the Lord, but please forgive me for the times that I did. If rank is given, have your respect to your apprentice. Be about your business. This loyalty to death sentence. Look, trying to pick up with a blind field. They said there'll be many mansions. I'm just grinding for my time share. Them devils ain't playing fair. They hunt you like Van Pelt, but ain't no getting out the game like Jumanji. You take that oath, it's a Dundee. They try to deal death to a priest. You won't make it out in one piece. So you can stand. Just make sure you got the heart. Say your name 3 times, then it's death do us part. No. So how you feel about this truth I done shown? This ain't the life you think, little nigga. I should want. Even your own people go disown. And the Lord said they hate you for my name, so you better keep it on. Ain't no more guessing, ain't no more questions. Make sure my election till I'm tucked away like George Jetson. Murder for capital Nines, murder at the Capitol. The world in amazement, we like fucking raise it, raise it. I pity those watching life as it go by. Be giving mercy in this life, I don't know why. In pub smoke, never try to. The dead at home, my brother be the dead, it's all I don't. Either fold or salute, my nigga. Salute, my nigga. They like, how you stay focused? I told him I'm motivated cause of you, my nigga. Brotherhoods and weapons, still got weapons on the scene. And I never do my niggas like Bishop did Raheem. Never mind in all beliefs, they under anesthesia. Shorty say she leave me, said she wanna let that love go. Told I let that love grow. But if I bring you to my bed, that's a blood oath. So, how you feel about this truth I done show? This ain't the life you think, little nigga. I should want. Even your own people go disown. And the Lord said they hate you for my name, so you better keep it on. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Shalom, Israel, with Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Priest and Officer 5000 Kasar Pakat. This is a Thursday night scripture breakdown for ISHPK Northern California, ISHPK Sacramento as well, Stockton, all over Northern California. If you are in the area, we have classes here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday here in Richmond, California at 2213 McDonald Avenue. Once again, 2213 McDonald Avenue in Richmond, California. If you need assistance to get to class, the teacher will arrange it. So reach out, put it in the comments. If you need a number to call, we will get one to you. All right, hold on 1 second. Slack you out. Not why. Shalom. See how that works? I can't see nothing out there. Right. You swallow. Just started. Right. So back. So where was I? Once again, yeah, we're in Richmond, California. If you need assistance getting to class, go ahead and reach out in the comments. You can find us on all social media platforms. ISUPK Northern California, NorCal, on IG, Facebook, YouTube, etc. All right. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's topic. Before that, if you have any questions online, go ahead, type them in the chat at any time. I'll read the comments and get to your question. And if there's any questions in the room, go ahead. Okay. Were you able to, I remember you had a question the other day on Saturday. Were you able to check out the class on Monday with General Muhammad? He spoke a little. Going to different events and things like that. Okay. All right. So I got a preset for you. We'll just go ahead and pull that to kind of go over this a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Got it. Say, matter of fact, let me find it over here. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 17. Start around 23. I might get there with you. Might go up a little bit. Let's see. 17, 23. Okay. If I can go for context, let's go up to a little bit. Go to verse 16. All right.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 16. Mm-hmm. Now, while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry.
Right. So this city, Athens, was wholly given into idolatry. That was the spirit and vibe of the entire town. And there are always places like this, even today. There's certain cities that are just known for specific things, certain areas that are known for specific things. One example would be Chicago, Philadelphia. When it comes to Philadelphia, let's see if you've heard the same things. What religion is known, famous, coming out of Philadelphia?
Islam?
Correct. You understand? Yeah. Nation of Islam was very prevalent in Philadelphia, and Chicago as well was one of the cities because Elijah Muhammad lived in Chicago. Another city that was known for Islam was Harlem, New York. You know, Malcolm X had a mosque in Harlem. And so the Nation of Islam took over New York. It turned into the 5%ers. You hear a lot about the 5%ers in hip hop music coming out of New York. Africa Bambaataa, Rakim, Nas, the Wu-Tang Clan, Busta Rhymes, and then the list goes on and on and on. There's so many different rappers from New York that talk about the 5% Nation. Lord Jamar, even that, his title called him Lord Jamar, the representation of the 5% Nation. They call each other God. Nas used to always say that, yo, God, you know, peace to the gods and the earth. All that comes from 5% Nation, which is a branch off or a break off of the Nation of Islam. And so, you know, this time, this city, Athens, was known for idolatry. This is where people would come and meet up for that purpose. All right. Verse 17.
Therefore, disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him.
Right. So he's coming to this area and he's battling daily with the people that live in the city, the Jews, the Israelites there as well, that were, following the Bible, but they were not following Christ. So he's having these battles with these men in these areas daily. Keep going.
Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, "What will this babbler say?" Others, some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Yahushua and the resurrection.
Right. So some of them say, what is he talking about? He's babbling, he's rambling about this other God, strange gods. These people are following different belief systems of the Greeks, of the Romans. They're following these cultures, these Epicureans, these Stoics, and they're saying, well, he's speaking to some strange God, because they knew the Israelites didn't speak about Christ or the resurrection. They were just talking about the basic, the laws, the 5 books of Moses, etc. All right, keep going.
And they took him and brought him unto Areopagus.
Yeah, that's Areopagus.
Unto Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine, wherefore thou speakest this."
Right. So they're trying to see, is this another God, something new? They brought him to this area where people were known to have all this idol worship and the things going. But it's going to explain. Let's keep going.
For thou bringest certain strange things to our ears. We would know, therefore, what these things mean.
Right. We would want to know. When you hear the word would in Old English, in this context, is saying we want to would. We would know, therefore, what these things mean. We want to know what these things mean. Keep going.
For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear something new, some new thing.
Right. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear some new thing. That's what the spirit of this city or area that they're taking him to, Areopagus. That's what was going on there. They're sitting there. I'll liken it to, if you look at the old camp speakings in Harlem, as far as older, I'm going to say the old ones from the 90s and 80s, but 2013, Captain Zarya, 125th Street, you had Sonetta out there. You had some guys called Red and Blue Pill. You had Polite coming through. You had Minister Inky and all these different conscious community members that were out there, and they're battling, one sitting here saying this, another one sitting there saying that. And Harlem has always been known for that. If you see the movie Malcolm X, one of the opening scenes, they had an old saying back in the days, if you were saying, something and trying to argue with somebody, they'd be like, man, go get your own soapbox. Because back in those days, preachers would come out and sit on a soapbox or a crate, like a crate today, and sit there and preach. And so that's how Malcolm X was walking through Harlem. You see one man, I think they had Al Sharpton in there sitting on something, preaching the Bible. Then you had somebody else over here saying his version of doing politics. And this person right here, everybody's sitting on their own soapbox and teaching what they want to teach. And that's what was going on here in this area. Everyone there was teaching something that they knew, or something that was a new thing to talk about or to hear about. And General Muhammad was saying, like, today the new thing is the Anunnaki. He's like, when I was young, I never heard of Anunnaki. Now that's something to be talked about. Some other new things, the melanated. I never heard of that word till the past 10 years. When I was a kid, no one said anything about melanated nation. They came out with something talking about 666. It's 6 carbons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. You heard that before? Okay, see, it's a new word thing. But yeah, some rapper came out saying that 666 doesn't mean the devil or Satan. It means 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Some random new thing that somebody high somewhere thought of and came out and said. Some guy tried to battle me on Facebook the other day. It's another thing that I'm sure in the past 10 years at the most has been being taught, that Israel is Isis, Ra, and El. Have you heard that one? Okay. I'm not the only one's been hearing these words out here. And that is totally doesn't make any sense, any logical sense. It's not based in any history. It's not based in any logic. And I asked him, I'm like, you're making this statement, but the ancient Israelites did not call themselves Israel. That's an English word. That's not even Hebrew. So how are you going to say it means Isis, Ra, and El when that's not even what they call themselves? It's like the Choctaw, and that may not even be the name they call themselves, but we call them, or Americans call them Indians. And so you're like, Indian means in divine revelation inheritance. That's what Indian stands for. And he's like, we don't call ourselves Indians. We're the Choctaw. We're the Blackfoot. We're this, we're that. You know what I mean? We are, this is our actual name in our own language. So, that didn't make sense. He tried to say some more weird stuff. I didn't even go back and forth with him after that. All right. But that's the vibe and spirit of this people. Let's keep going.
Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious.
Right, you are too superstitious. You're very paranoid. And that's what comes with doing drugs. And that's what comes with all these other religions. They don't show you the back part. The majority of these religions are dealing with people that are on drugs. And it plays into their paranoia, borderline schizophrenia, and it creates a group of people that are very superstitious, because if you're superstitious, you're not thinking how. I'm gonna ask you.
Logically?
Right, correct. Why do you say that?
It's logically because everything's superstitious. You're thinking as if like something that's non-physical can affect something that's physical, or vice versa. Something that is physical can affect something that is spiritual in a way, in a sense.
Okay. I kind of see that. I would say even more. Let's look up Alexa.
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Yeah.
It looks like a router issue, so try restarting it.
Listen,
Unplug the router,
Alexa,
wait
stop.
10 seconds, then plug it back in.
Alexa, stop. Look at the word superstition. What's the definition of superstition? People that get into that mind, like I said, it's borderline schizophrenia, because you believe more in things that don't make sense than things that do make sense. And so now the person that's teaching you can pretty much tell you anything, and they don't have to verify it. And that's how real life cults are started. But I'll let you get that definition. We're going to it. I see Shalom Yabashim Ashar Bakatha to Chuba Matam Yad, checking in from San Jose. He said he had a question. Why did Yahweh cast out the demon from that Edomite woman, the one he called a dog? Okay, we're going to get to that one. I know. Yeah.
Two definitions.
All right.
A definition of superstition: excessively credulous belief in and reverence for supernatural beings.
Okay.
And the second one, a widely held but unjustified belief in supernatural causation, leading to certain consequences of an action or event or a practice based on such belief.
Right. So that's it. Unjustified. Like someone believes there is a higher power that created the sun. Even scientists that are atheists, they may not believe that, but they can understand why you believe that. There's a valid argument in science that there could be, what do they call that word? Oh man, it's just people that believe in, they try to make it a logical sense for the creation theory. So I forgot what the scientific term for it, but there are people in science that say, you know, it's a possibility that there is an intelligent creator. I think that's the word, intelligent, higher intelligence. I forget the word, right? But basically, there are things that could be phenomena that are coming from the spiritual realm. But when it's just unfounded, when you believe that step on a crack, break your mama's back, and you avoiding every crack down the street because you think that doing that is going to break your mother's back. You believe that having this lucky rabbit's foot is going to bring you some good luck. You believe that not changing your socks every game you play football is going to help you win. Like that doesn't make any sense. But you're living like that. If someone can convince you to stay in that state of mind, they can pretty much tell you anything and you will do anything for them because you're not in the state of thinking logical. The information they're giving you is not actually helping you. And this is where you get men like Polite, right? And so going to the study, try to not be too long with it, but there was a study based on cults. And one of the cults was one in San Diego called Stargate. What was it called? Oh man, you know what I'm talking about? They were all wearing Nikes and they all ended up killing themselves, right? Heaven's Gate. It was called Heaven's Gate. And this dude, and the guy that was studying the cults, he said the way these cults start, and the people in this cult were logical, intelligent people. They had degrees. It wasn't like they were just some random, you know, people that literally had mental issues because he was going and trying to study the people and the families and doing research. And the people who had education, had money, had good jobs. And they're just trying to understand how is it that they could fall into this trap. And they said, basically, the root of all these cults is that they have one charismatic leader, and the charismatic leader gives them information that they cannot prove without that person. It's not verifiable. So like if I came in and said the sky is purple, you can just go outside and look up and say, okay, no, the sky is not purple, it's blue, or whatever. If I told you that there's little leprechauns marching up McDonald Avenue, you can go outside and see there's no leprechauns, right? But if I go and say that there was a divine being that came and spoke to me by myself and told you that there is a star in the sky and it's going to pass by, and that's the Heaven's Gate, that's how you get to heaven. You cannot prove it. You have to come through me to get this information. And once you're stuck on that, whatever I tell you about it, you're going to have, you would believe it if I have this charisma and I'm able to do these things. So that's like Brother Polite. He's charismatic. He's good with his words. He's saying all this information. And then if he's able to get you to think in things that you cannot prove without him, you're going to go with whatever he says, man. And so that's what was going on at these times. Like these people were so superstitious. They're believing in anything. And go ahead to verse 23. So like,
come. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription: to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship him, declare I unto you.
Right. And so now getting back to the original question, from what I remember, was basically we go to certain events and it's not something, it's dedicated to something else. It may not be like 4th of July where it's tied to another god, etc., or whatnot. But even if it was that, we can go to these things because we are trying to fish men out. And I know that I was explaining that, but this is one of the examples where he's out here where they have booths set up to every different god. This is the whole city given to idolatry, whole area given into idolatry. He's going out there teaching them to pull brothers and fish brothers out of this nonsense. And that's what we're doing. We ordered, if you become an officer in the UPK, we are ordered to go out and fish men and bring them into the school. So, you know, I talked to General Muhammad, he basically was telling me, he was like, I don't give a damn if you go to a witch's brew ball and they drinking blood. You need to go over there and interview them and ask them what the hell are they doing and why they doing it. You know this is unlawful, and use that, get it up on the internet, and get people to subscribe to our channels, to learn from us, and to come into the school and come out of that nonsense.
Okay.
And so that's the thing about it. Now, one thing I did say, celebrating, no, we don't celebrate anything that's not of Leviticus 23rd chapter, right? We don't keep anything that's not in the Bible that has been ordained since the days of the Bible. We to do that would be out of the spirit. And so we would never just say, okay, we're gonna celebrate this, right, that, or anything like that. So whether it be lawful or unlawful, it's all unlawful to us. I'll just say that. So we're not celebrating anything outside of that. Now, in comparison to like a anniversary, a baby shower, once again, those things are personal to each person, individual. It's not something that people as a nation are doing. Our people are out there celebrating these things because they're lost and they need some type of hope to believe in. So it's a good thing that our people are celebrating getting free from oppression. In their mind, the Haitians may celebrate the day they had the revolution, but we know in our minds they're still in slavery.
Okay.
And so we go there to fish our brothers out, whatever it may be. So we might be, you know, I'll talk to you more after class about that. But hopefully that gives you a little more. Let's keep going. Read verse 23 one more time. We'll read a little more.
For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription: to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you.
Right. So these people were so superstitious. They had a God for everything. They knew about this God, knew about that God. If the East Indians came through and they told them about some gods, they put up an altar for him. The Egyptians came up, they put up an altar for them. Whatever nation came up and taught about all these guys, they were so worried that they put up an altar to the unknown God just in case they missed a God that they didn't know. They had one up there, like a mystery. You know, you get a pack of Starburst, they got that mystery flavor in it, you know, Skittles, whatever. That was the mystery guy. Like, all right, this is the one we don't know, but we got him too, just in case. We covered all the bases. But he's saying the unknown God, the true unknown God, is the one that I'm teaching about. Keep going.
Okay. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands.
Right. So your gods dwell in these temples, they dwell in these idols, they dwell in these statues, they dwell in this rabbit's foot, whatever thing you believe is where your power is coming from. That's not the Most High God, because you're worshiping the creator, the creation more than the creator. You're seeing value in things made by the hands of man, this candle, this statue, this shirt, this picture, this image, etc. Right? Okay. Let's see. And that's it on that. We won't go further into it. But if that gives a little clarity, so just to bring a little bit more home, we can go to any event. I don't care what they're doing there. Our job is to come and fish men out of those things. And that's what Paul was dealing with here, in essence.
Okay.
All right. Let's see, the brother had a question. Let's get, is it Matthew? Is that 15 and 4? 15. Which one is that? Matthew 15, 24. Right, yeah, let's go to Matthew 15 and 24. 22.
Con.
Matter of fact, no, it's not the one I want. Let's go to, I think it might be in Luke. Mark 7 and 20. So 25 somewhere there in Mark 7. And that's what you want to do. Each different of these four gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're given different angles and different perceptions of the same story. And that's what you want to do when answering questions. You want to go and find the one that breaks it down the simplest to the point that you're trying to make. So that's what you want to do. You want to see in different times, each one may have a different purpose and may be better to answer that specific scenario situation. So I believe this is the one. Let's see. What did I say? 729.
24?
Yeah, let's start for, the first 25.
This is the book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 25. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a
Phoenician.
The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation,
Right.
and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter.
Right. So this is an Edomite woman living in Syrophoenicia, and she besought Christ that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. Right. And I remember, young man, you asked this question to General Muhammad when he was here, and he brought out this precept. And once you see it right there. It's right in front of you. The answer to your question: why did he cast out the demon from this Edomite woman, the one he called a dog? It's just right there. And once you read it and see it, you're like, damn. The answer is right in front of me the whole time. He said the sound is low. Hold on, let me see if I can work with that. It might be with the mic. Going to the settings, audio, echo cancellation, reduce mic background noise, microphone. Yeah, so like it. Here we go. It should put a 1 in the chat if the sound's better, right? If the sound is better, Matam Yad or anybody watching, put a 1 in the chat. If it's still the same, put a 2 in the chat. Baba Kasha. We'll give them a second. I know it's a little bit of delay. Make sure this is turned up. If the sound is still low, put a 2. If the sound is a little bit better, put a 1. Seems to wobble over there, huh? Yeah, I changed the microphone, so we'll go for it. But yeah, hopefully if that brother sees it, he'll go in there to the chat. But let's keep going for time's sake. So let's go ahead and get this answer to this question. Go to verse 27.
But Yahushua said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it into the dogs.
Right, so Christ, he told her, let the children first be fed, for it is not meat, meaning it's not good. It's not a good thing to take the children's bread and to cast it unto the dogs. A very clear-cut, straightforward analogy. If you had some children of your own, you wouldn't take the food and give it to your pet or your dog out of their mouth and feed them first. You would feed your child first, your children, because that's who came from you. This dog is a bonus. He's added to the house to help maybe for protection, help for some type of companionship to play with the kids, but he's not the priority as a father, as a parent. And Christ is telling her she's a heathen, she's a Greek, she's from another nation. His priority is not to go around healing heathens' daughters. That's not what his job is to do. His job is to feed the children first, who are the children of Israel. All right, verse 28.
And she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord.
She said, what?
Yes, Lord.
One more time.
Yes, Lord.
She answered him and said, Yes, Adawan. Yes, Lord. Everything you're saying is true. What you're saying is absolutely 100% correct. When we go out on the streets and we tell these heathens that they are not the Lord's chosen people, that they're going to go into slavery one day, that they should bow down on their knees and kiss the boots of the prophets, the majority of those people out there say what?
I'm not gonna do that.
They say they're not going to do that. What do they say about us?
They say one, but I'll say the one that comes is
When they hear us say those things, what do they say?
we're not those people, we're not Jews.
Right. They say we're lying. They say that we're racist. They say that we're teaching hate. We're teaching division. You know, they come and they go against us. They try to teach the Bible against us. They try to separate our people from us. If someone's out there listening to us, they go and tell them that these guys are wrong, and these guys are the black KKK. You shouldn't listen to them, etc., etc. The majority of the oppressors, when they hear the things that we teach and we say that we're only here to help blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, they go up against us. But there are few and far between that says, you know what? You're right. I do apologize for my ancestors and what they did to your ancestors in slavery. I will bow down on my knees. I will kiss the boots in a form of apology towards blacks and Latinos and Native American Indians. And for those few people, we'll shake their hand. We'll give them a dap. If they wanted to get, we had an extra burger and water at camp, we'll give them a water, man. You thirsty after you done kiss 12 boots out here? Go ahead, you can have a water. That's what Christ was doing when he was dealing with this woman. So read verse 29 one more time. No, read verse 28.
And she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord.
Everything you're saying is absolutely true. Keep going.
Yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs.
So she's putting herself into this second class position. She's admitting she's a dog. She's admitting that she is not the priority. She knows who Christ is here for and who he uses his power to help heal, right? But even the dogs under the table, even the ones that are not the priority, sometimes they can benefit from the ones who are first, right? Keep going.
And he said unto her, For this saying.
For what?
For this saying.
Nah, because he loves all Edomites and oppressors.
For this saying.
No, because Christ came to open up salvation to all the Gentile nations.
For this saying.
The reason why he helped this oppressor is for what?
For this saying.
For her agreeing and saying, Yes, Lord. Yes, I don't want. Yes, I am a dog. For this saying, keep going.
Go thy way. The devil is gone out of thy daughter.
Right. So for her admitting who she was and accepting and submitting to Christ in this manner is the reason why he healed her daughter. And so you'll see, brothers in the UPK, we go out to give out food. We don't tell oppressors they can't get a free peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They can't get some free socks if we're giving out socks to everyone. We're giving out hot dogs to everyone. We'll give them a hot dog. They can get the crumbs. But you know what they can't get? They can't come to Passover. They can't come to one of our barbecues. They can't come and stay at someone's house. They can kiss our boots and we can give them a bottle of water. We can give them a blessing, but they're not getting salvation. And that's the difference. So Christ did that because of her humbleness and her willing to accept her role you know, and that would behoove you Israelites, it's like you Edomites today, to admit your position and bow down, and maybe you will see some mercy from Christ in that day. All right. So that's pretty much the answer to that. All right.
Most High Christ.
Most High Christ. All right, let's go into tonight's topic. John chapter 7, verse 35. This is another interesting thing today. Yesterday, was that yesterday? No, maybe it was 2 days ago on Tuesday. Was in a job training program over Zoom with New Slavery. And on the lunch break, they gave us about 35 minutes, 40 minutes. I tapped on this thing called Fanbase now. It's just like Clubhouse. Started by a black brother, and everybody left Clubhouse. We all go on the Fanbase and trying to build up this platform, because the people that were running Clubhouse were some heathens. They were Amalek, or the so-called Jewish people, Jewish man running it, and they were trying to stop a lot of the things that we were doing on Clubhouse, going against Israelites, us, other fake Israelites, any other black people that were trying to stick up for black people, etc. So, long story short, I hopped on there, some people on there, and this is why I chose this topic tonight. They were basically, I guess they were Christian. They were brothers, though. They were Israelites. They were Christian, and they were basically teaching in a room full of other Christians, I'm guessing, and they were just talking down about what Israelites teach in general. And, you know, specifically, we know in the UPK they're talking about us, because we're the root of everything else these fake Israelites take and have watered down. And so one of the things the guy was saying was that the Gentiles Israelites were never called Gentiles in the Bible by nation. So there's no Israelite in the Bible called another nation like an Edomites. There was no Israelite in the Bible called a Moabite. There was no Israelite in the Bible called a Hamite, just because they lived in these nations. And he said, according to the table of nations, meaning Genesis in the 10th chapter, right? So Genesis the 10th chapter breaks down all the nations, I think branched off from Noah, all right? And so anyway, just really that quickly, I'm listening to what he's saying. At first he was saying these things, and then I got on, I asked him, I'm like, okay, so what exactly are you saying here, right? And he explained it to me. And so just that quick, I'm like, okay, let me go to Genesis, the 10th chapter. So let's go to that first. All right. We'll go to Genesis chapter 10. We'll go through some of these nations. And it's interesting too, is like we know the foundation of what we teach, and it's just good to trust in it. And it's like he's in a room and he's talking to all these people, and they're just going with what he's saying because it sounds nice. The same thing, he sounds good with his words. He's quoting precepts. He's saying this off the top of his head. But once you start asking questions and getting to the root of what they're saying, they get cut so easily. So let's go in here, right? So I just glanced at it in 2 seconds while he's talking. I'm sitting there waiting. I'll go over here. Let me see if I can verify what he's saying. So we got. Go ahead.
From verse 1?
Yeah.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Right.
And unto them were souls born unto the flood, born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tabal, and Meshech, and Taras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah.
Right. And so boom, he says these nations or whatever. And I'm just glancing at this real quickly, looking to see, I'm like, okay, have I seen any of these names? Have I seen any Israelites be called by these names of these nations? couldn't think of any off top. So I glanced a little bit more. Go down to verse 22. You can start at verse 21.
Verse 21.
Mhm.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Aphlah, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram.
Okay, there it is right there. There goes the cut. Right there. So boom, I asked him, set him up, put him in a box. If you don't know, that's 1 West. That's Commander General Hyman. Put people in a box. You get them, ask them a certain question. We learned this all from Christ. That's what Christ, he was the best at battling and cutting people. He would often get asked questions, but before he would often return with a question before he answered it. And then once you get them to say this statement that you know is not true, you get it for the record, get them on that, you got them locked in a box. Now you come and trap them in that box and see them try to fight their way out of it. So I said, okay, you're saying none of these nations, right? 18 nations, this is where you get this from. All right. Okay. Go to Acts chapter 2 and verse 5.
Come.
It is a surprise. I'm like, God damn, that was easy, you know.
The book of Slacky. This is the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
Who was staying in Jerusalem?
Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
Right. There were dwelling in Jerusalem devout men. That means they followed the Bible. They were devoted to the Bible. They were devout men. Every nation. Keep going.
Now, when this was considered noise abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Right. So this is talking about the day of Pentecost, and when the Holy Spirit came upon these brothers, and they were able to speak in this language, and the other people from all these different nations were able to these other lands, but didn't speak Hebrew. They were able to understand in their own tongue. Or they may have spoke Hebrew, but they also spoke the language of the Egyptians. They also spoke in the language of this other nation. They spoke Italian. They may spoke Spanish. They're able to hear it in Spanish. All right. They're able to hear what they're teaching in Italian. Keep going.
And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans?
Right. Are they from Galilee, where Christ was from, right? How are they speaking? How are we able to hear these languages when we know they're not from that area? Keep going.
And how hear we every man in our own tongue, wherein we were born?
Right. Go ahead.
Parthians and Medes and Elamites.
And who?
And Elamites.
Elamites, as we would say, you know, Elamites. So once again, he said that the nations on that 10 list or 18 nations, whatever he said, I don't know how he, from Genesis chapter 10, we were never referred to as one of those nations of people. Well, one of those nations that he said was Elam. And here we have Jews, devout men out of every nation being called Elamites, being referred to as, and Elamites of today would be East Indians. They're calling them East Indians, but they're not East Indians. They're Jews, devout men of every nation. And you know what that dude said after that? Not a damn thing. He was cut. He was silent. And his other friend had to chime in and try to redirect the topic. Oh, no. What he's doing, he's changing the topic. When I'm literally answering everything that they were saying, answering that and showing him that he's wrong, he tried to redirect it and said that I was redirecting it. And so he went into this topic. Well, all right. And okay, I'll tell you one thing. He did try to come back after he said, let's keep going a little bit.
Okay. And in Judea and in Cappadocia and in Pontus and in Asia, Phrygia and in Pamphylia and Libya, outside Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes.
And proselytes, right? And so that's when he said, well, what about it saying proselytes? And do you know what a proselyte is? Okay, let's look it up. We can look it up. A proselyte. And so this is his only angle he tried to, after a few seconds of being stuck and cut, he tried to add this one in, but he couldn't quite get out of that box because it says Jews out of every nation. All right, so go ahead. What's the definition?
Definition of proselyte or proselyte: a person who has converted from one opinion, religion, or party to another.
Right. And so he is trying to say that these different nations of people were people that converted to becoming Israelite or Jewish or Judaism as they teach. But we know that that was never the culture of Israelites. People that were following the Torah, even if they didn't follow Christ, they were not going out and converting people to become Israelites. Not the devout men, not the ones that were reading the Torah. Now, there may have been some coon cats or people that were working with the Romans and all this type of stuff, or, you know, extra sellouts that may have wanted to do something like that. But not these brothers. These brothers were sincere in wanting to follow the Torah, wanting to follow the laws of God. They just didn't know about Yahushua. They hadn't got to that point. So these proselytes are actually Israelites. Israelite brothers that had gone and followed the ways of these other nations, had been taught and had come back to learning about the Torah. Go ahead.
Sorry, sir. I may be confused. Although, wasn't there something in the Apocrypha about turning or trying to convert Greeks into Jews?
Okay, yeah, there was here from. So, like I said, yeah, there were. Though that was a forced conversion. The only time that's been recorded was they tried to force the Edomites after they went to war with the nation of Edom, which was south of Judea. So after the time of Antiochus, the under the leader of Hyrcanus, I know I was talking about that before, John Hyrcanus, he was one of the brothers of Judah Maccabee. And so after he got the reins and was in charge, he went and led an expedition where they went and conquered the Edomites, and they forced them to follow our laws. So some of them started to basically think that they were Israelites, and some of them were having children with our women and were raising their children as if they were Israelites. And so that's where you get King Herod from. His mother was an Israelite woman. His father was an Edomite, and they put him in charge over our nation as a figurehead for the Romans. The Romans wanted this bloodline to be in charge because we had, in order to go against the Greeks, we went into a deal with the Romans. Did you remember hearing about that part? And so that was our downfall, is making this deal or treaty or pact or whatever you want to call it, alliance, maybe is a better word, alliance with the Romans. When a few years after that, the Romans do what Romans do and turned on us and tried to impose, I wouldn't say try, they started to impose their power over us. This is where you get the Sadducees and Pharisees, where it says, if every man should follow Christ, they will come and take away our power. They'll take away our seat, because the Romans had selected them to be the ones to be the leaders over us, because they were willing to work and submit to the Romans as long as they were paid. And so King Herod was one of the men that they selected to be a figurehead over us, because some people may accept him as Israelite because his mother is kind of like the best way I can explain that today is Barack Obama. You know, Barack Obama, he's heathen on both sides. But in our mind, we see him as a black man because of how he looks, as opposed to really paying attention to who his father is. And so that's what they were using that old trick back then. But as far as being people that had converted, see, when that definition, he said people that had changed their ideas. They had one idea about things and then their ideas had changed. So it's not just a cut and dry definition of meaning you are converting to a different religion. And people today, the rapper Sean from Bad Boys back in the 90s, he went to jail when he came out. He converted to Judaism, even though he's really an Israelite. He's following that way. He's thinking he's converting to something who he already is. And so even today, you can almost see something like that. Really, just everybody that came into the truth, honestly. We were living lives as heathens. We thought we were this nation of people. We fully immersed ourselves in this. We did Christmas. We did Halloween. We did Easter. We called ourselves African American. Some people called themselves Jamaican, etc. And you wake up to this knowledge and you come back into the truth. We will be considered proselytes. That's all. We weren't raised Israelite culture. We converted back to our own original culture. So that's what was going on here. But he thought he kind of had that. But even that doesn't add up to the statement he said, because I asked him after he said that, are you saying everyone on this list are all heathens? Because if you are, why does it say Jews, devout men out of every nation? So, you know, it doesn't add up. If all these are actually heathens that have been converted, why is that the last one on the list of all these nations? If anything, you don't know where those proselytes came from. But you do know that these Jews came from Medes, Elam, Parthians, Mesopotamia, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, because it's saying that these were Jews from out of every nation. All right. So he couldn't answer that. And so that's when the other dude chimed in. He was like, well, show me in the Bible where Gentile, the Israelite is referred to as a Gentile. Let me see that specific precept. He tried to put me in a box. And I'm like, right before I answered that, I'm like, hey, I got to go back to work. I'm on a break. You know what I'm saying? And so when he started answering this, I'm like, man, there's hundreds of precepts that I can pull up and show you. He's like, man, you just got to go back to work, huh? Run back to work. He started trying to talk some mess. I'm like, man, watch your damn mouth, man. Don't try to get disrespectful and get all hyped up because I genuinely have to go to work. Ain't nobody running from you. You know what I'm saying? That's the last thing we do here in the UPK. But if that brother ever comes across this class or anybody else comes across questions like these, there's two things. Definitely these precepts will help for that situation, but also certain things, this question he's trying to set you up with is smoke and mirrors, or what's the other word they call it? It's like diversion, straw man. I think I always get confused when they use those arguments. I got to really look and see the definitions. Some people say gaslighting. It's certain different things they're trying to do. It's one of those trick words within the question. And you want to get to the root and the spirit of what he's saying. So even if we don't find it in the Bible where it says exactly what he's asking, what are you even saying this for? He's trying to prove that Gentiles can be saved and the other nations of people. That question, we always see Captain Cesario, every battle he gets into, prove to me in the Bible where salvation is given to another nation. That's not smoke and mirrors. That's not a diversion. That's your true belief. That's your, what do they call that in debating? That's your, is it presupposition? All these words, man, I get lost with. That's your statement or belief, whatever. That's the foundation of what you're saying. And none of them can ever find that because it's not in the Bible. It doesn't matter how many times they look. Nobody's ever beat Captain Nazareth in a battle where they show that salvation was given to another nation in the Bible. They can come up with blessings. These other nations will be blessed. They can come up with this and that and the third, but not that. So at the end of the day, He can try to sound cool with all that, but I know I'm getting along with it. Let's go to these precepts. Let's go to John chapter 7, verse 35. And Makamya, yes, Elam is East Indian. That's correct. If I didn't say it when you asked the question, I didn't see it comment. But yes, Elam is East Indians, correct. Go ahead.
It's the book of John, chapter 7, verse 35. Then said the Jews among themselves, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?
All right, so right here, there you go up a little bit. Christ said unto them in verse 33. Then said Yahweh unto them, Yet a little while, and I with you, and then I go unto them that sent me. Ye shall seek me, and ye shall not find me. And where I am, thither ye cannot come. Then said the Jews among themselves, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Where is Christ going to go? They didn't understand the true connotations and the spirit behind what Christ was saying. They just thought he was going to go to some physical place on earth that they couldn't find him, couldn't do it. Read from the middle where it says, Will he go into the dispersed?
Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles?
Right, so they know that there are Israelites dispersed, spread about among the Gentiles, among these other nations. Keep going.
And teach the Gentiles?
Right, so this one, he's not talking about other nations because they said he's going to go to the dispersed. And is he going to teach the Gentiles? Meaning, one instance is saying the nations, the other one is saying that our people were considered a part of these nations. We looked at them like a part of these nations and started to separate ourselves from them. We're not going over there. We're not dealing with them because they're the dispersed. They moved or got kicked out of Israel, and we don't deal with them anymore. That's pretty much that. So that's one instance where you hear Israelites being referred to as Gentiles, but he may try to wiggle out of that one. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 12:2. He might try to change that, break it down some old weird way to mean what they want it to mean so that they can deal with white women. And that's the other thing. General Muhammad, sometimes he won't even entertain these cats with these battles and just goes to the roots of what they're really saying. What is the demon that's in them that makes them want to battle you about this? So once again, if someone's sitting here battling with you that the law is done away with, 9 times out of 10, let me see about leave it too vague. What are they trying to protect? What are they trying to stand up for?
Slovakia, they don't want to follow the dietary laws.
There you go.
You own it. Law.
Right, but that's the main one. Genuinely, when they say they don't want to follow the laws, they don't say that they don't want to follow the law of adultery. They don't want to say that we shouldn't follow the law of murder. They don't want to say we shouldn't follow the law of stealing or worshiping another god. The main law they're battling about is dietary law, and specifically one animal, which would be
swan.
Exactly. So that's what the battle really is about. It's not about them wanting the law to be done away with. It's about them wanting to eat pork. And when these people come and say that Gentiles can be saved, it's never about saving Africans. It's never about saving Asians or Arabs. It's always about saving the oppressor. And it's really about saving that oppressor woman. These men that are trying to do it, in their mind, they can't see life without having the option of getting Becky or being with Becky, even if they don't have one. They want somebody to get one. How dare you tell me or my brother or my children that they can't get this sweet lily Edomite woman? You understand? And that's really the root of it. Sometimes you can skip to that and see the spirit, see the hypocrisy on this person and just cut them with that and not even have to go to any damn precepts. Remember at camp one time, Officer 5000 Yawastat was there. Some dude, some Edomite was coming out in front of the camp trying to talk crazy to us and say something about this, say something about that. And Yawastat just read his spirit. He was like, man, you a goddamn child molester. You understand me? And you out here, you even laugh like the devil and all this and that. And you just seen as soon as he said it, because he was trying to go back and forth and yell or whatever he was saying, he was going back and forth. As soon as he said, you a goddamn child molester, he looked like that Homer Simpson meme where you see him walk into that bush and fall back into that bush. That's how he did into the crowd. Right on 50th Market. Just slowly walked back and disappeared out of the crowd. It just shut him up. And everybody started looking at him. Look, yeah, he does look like a goddamn child molester. And you could tell he was a goddamn child molester. You know what I'm saying? So certain things, sometimes you got to do that to people as well. But let's go to 1 Corinthians 12 and 2.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 2. Ye know that ye were in ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led.
Right, okay. So with this one, when you at camp, you want to read that slow and you want to put emphasis on word. All right, read verse 2 one more time.
Ye know that ye were Gentiles.
No, one more time. Read the beginning slow and put emphasis on word when you get to word. You know what I'm saying? All right, one more time.
Ye know, ye know that ye were Gentiles.
Right. Ye were Gentiles. You once upon a time were a Gentile. How do you stop being a Gentile? Either you have to believe that you can convert from a Gentile and become a spiritual Israelite, when we know that no one that reads the Bible, that was never said in the Bible, no one can find a verse that tells you that you can stop being a Gentile and become another nation. So how is it your battle is saying that none of these 10 nations in chapter 10 we were referred to as these nations is true. There were Israelites that were called Elamites. And then on top of that, where you're trying to say that Gentiles can be saved, why would they stop being Gentiles and become Israelites if the Gentiles can be saved? You understand? Like, why would you have to give up your identity? You don't go to the Christian church that teaches that everywhere. Every Christian church, Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, they teach that all nations can be saved. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. So if you're Asian, you can get saved by Christ. They don't tell you if you're Asian, you have to become an Israelite. They don't tell you if you're an African, you have to become an Israelite. They just tell you all you have to do is believe in Christ and you will be saved. So why is he saying ye were Gentiles, like they abandoned being Gentiles and didn't want to be called Egyptian anymore? Didn't want to be called Elamite anymore. Why did they say that? He's saying ye were Gentiles. Keep going.
Ye know that ye were Gentiles.
Right, that's how you do it, huh?
Carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led.
Right, carried away unto these dumb idols. How are you carried away to these dumb idols if you never had the law, statutes, and commandments? The Gentiles were never carried away to these other religions because that's the foundation of all of their cultures. It was only the Israelites that were carried away and followed these dumb idols. When the northern kingdom followed the Assyrians, when the southern kingdom, the so-called southern and northern kingdom, followed the Babylonians, we were carried away. You understand? And that's Isaiah 47:19. The Lord has not dealt so with any other nation. Paraphrasing. All right. So we were the ones that were carried away. All right. Let's go to Revelations 5 and 9. Go ahead when you go. Oh, yeah, you got to put your notes down. Go ahead. No sweat. Always time for that. I'd rather you have it in your notes than not to have it.
Come.
All right.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 5, verse 9. And they sung a new song, saying, "Thou art take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation."
Right. So all these prophecies have been spoken about from Isaiah, from Ezra to Jeremiah, Nehemiah, and the list goes on and on and on. That there's going to be somebody that's going to redeem the children of Israel. And this is saying that Christ is the one that's able to open the seals and redeem us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. The children of Israel will be called from all these different places, all these different languages, all these different nations. That's where we would come from in the end. Read verse 10.
Come. Verse 10. And has made unto us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth.
Right. And so this is another precept as well for saying that heaven will be on earth, but it's saying he has made us unto our God, the God of the children of Israel, kings and priests, and we shall reign on earth. This is dealing with Israelites, Aki. You understand? Aqua. Let's drop that. Go ahead.
I
Please.
just want to say, like, verse 9, I've gone over verse 9 before, but I've never really read it or it's never been brought out to me in this way. It says, by thy blood, and then after thy blood, it says, out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. It's still by the blood.
Right.
Out of all these other places.
Right.
That's real heavy right there.
The family. By thy blood, you know what I mean?
Even though they're out of this people, and maybe they're out of this nation, it's still by the blood.
Right. And that's deep and that's heavy. That's like I said, it'd be right there. And that's why, doesn't matter how many times you always come across something new, man, reading these scriptures and precepts. And whether you hear it 1,000 times or 10 times or one time, I feel like, every different time I learn something new, focusing on these things, man. And it might be one word, or it might be a comma or a colon or whatever. Like even that dash means something. And that's why, like in the last one, when you read that, like General Muhammad, he definitely teaches class like that. He'll say, okay, this is how you want to read it. I can't, so people can hear it like that. Because you can read it a certain way, and the concept changes. But when you see that inflection right here, it really comes and drives home that point. Like, wow, okay, this is the spirit of what was being said here. Yeah. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to Romans 11 and 26. Baba Shah. And just one will be suffice, huh? That brother, super soldier right there. Just one kind will be suffice, huh? Most High Christ here. Most High Christ, you ready for Hebrew Academy out there? Oh, wait. Hebrew Academy. There's gonna be a whole lot of that going on. It's definitely I was at McDonald's lock here. Thank you for the fry. They asked you, I'm like kind of the one guy. Let's go ahead though.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 26. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Right. Matter of fact, let's go to verse 25. A little more context.
Verse 25. For I will not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happening to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in.
Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. These Israelites have been blinded. The ones that live in the land, live in Jerusalem and Judea, and they haven't been able to really understand the truth, because if the so-called Southern Kingdom had just followed the laws and obeyed the laws, then technically there would be no reason for the northern kingdom to be allowed to come back in the fold. And I can't find that precept right now, but it's something to the effect that the so-called northern kingdom had went against what the Lord put down, and Judah followed after that and doing the exact same things. It was actually worse than what they had done, because we were the ones that originally supposed to have held on and kept the way. And then knowing the way, you have the temple in Judea. You have all the priests with you, and you still went and began to live like these heathens and follow the way of the heathens. That's even worse, man. You saw what happened to them. Like that's like you having a father that smoked crack, and you see it destroy his life. You see him outside in the streets talking to himself, bummy, dirty, homeless, and you get older and you smoke crack. Like, you're worse than him. He saw a good father, had a perfect example, and got caught up in the streets and somehow ended up getting high on crack. You had the perfect example of why not to do crack, yet somehow you end up doing it. So it's just almost even worse in that instance. And that's kind of like the southern kingdom doing that. It's seeing what happened to the northern kingdom for disobeying the Lord, and it's still going out and doing it. And you had all the means and resources to do something better. But if we wouldn't have done that, because the law says you're supposed to kick out people that don't come to Passover, that worship other gods, you're supposed to cut them off. But the way they were able to come back is because if not saying we, but the so-called southern kingdom should have been cut off too, basically. So there would be no more Israel at all. You basically don't have to cut off the whole goddamn nation. It's not going to be a nation. You're going to have to raise up another nation of people, because his chosen people all have gone off. But guess what? Since they are able to come back, you guys are able to come back too. So read that verse one more time. We read from the top, verse 25. Mm-hmm.
For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery.
Right. This is very mysterious. How can one tribe or these tribes get cut off and then get welcomed back in? Keep going.
Lest ye should be wise in your own conceit.
Right. You so prideful and puffed up because you go to Passover or you don't eat pork openly, that you think you're better than those brothers out there in the world that are celebrating Christmas and Halloween, etc., and all that. Keep going.
That blindness in part, that blindness in part is happened to Israel.
Right. They've been blinded in part for a reason. Keep going.
Until the fullness of the Gentiles become in.
Right. So until all the 12 tribes, there's not going to be a nation. We will never have the kingdom without all the 12 tribes. That's not the kingdom of heaven if they're not men that are pulled out of all these 12 tribes to get to that 144. You know, they just can't be. We're not going to have 144,000 Judites. Not going to be 144,000 Benjamites. You need 12,000 at least from all 12 tribes. You got to get all these brothers from all these different areas to come in. Keep going.
Come. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Right. So this is what it's talking about. Right. Let's drop that. Let's go to James 1:1. Mm-hmm. Let's see, we went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Honorable Khan.
This is the book of James, chapter 1, verse 1.
Mhm.
James, a servant of God and of the Lord Yahweh Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greeting.
Right. These letters are supposed to get out to these 12 tribes. You don't never hear about the so-called, I'm trying to figure out the best way. Can we say that word? The so-called, the small hats, the Amalekites. I don't know what I was going to say. I think we can still say that. The so-called Jewish people today. You never hear about them talking about the 12 tribes. Trying to send out messages to the 12 tribes, connecting with the 12 tribes. No, none of their mission statements are to the 12 tribes. You see this in the New Testament. You see this letter from James going out to the 12 tribes of Israel, because this is the difference between the men that were just following the Torah as it was set up, the Tanakh as it was set up, and the people that were following Christ. That they're going out and getting these brothers and dealing with these brothers that were supposed to be cast off or cast away. All right, so that's just a quick precept right there. Matthew 10:5. Run around. Keep it. Most High in Christ, Malcolm Yah. Beautiful, practical knowledge, the brother said. Yeah. Right. Who is this person? Anton 1. Thanks and praise to the Supreme Being. Okay. I don't know if he's still on here. I don't know what that means. Is he talking about 5% nation, or is he talking about the Most High God? Go ahead.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 5.
Mhm.
These 12 Yahweh sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Right, so he's sending his men out. He's sending them to these other places. But he's saying, don't go into the way of the Gentiles. Don't be dealing with these heathens. Don't go into the area of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And this is the same mission statement that was left to James, left to Paul, left to all these brothers, to go into these different nations that we were dispersed and scattered to, and pull out our brothers and sisters that were living there and that were lost. They were definitely lost because they were not following the true way. Whether you believe you was Israelite and trying to keep the law, or you were completely against the law and the Bible at the time. So I was reading a book. It talks about when Israelites were amongst the Greek Empire, I believe. I forget what the name of the book is at home. But it is just talking about how we were living amongst these nations, and it explains how you really get to see there's nothing new under the sun, and there were different factions of Israelites at this time period. So you may have some that are saying, yeah, we keep the law and we keep these things, but it's really not of God. It's just our culture. So if you want to be a Greek and you don't want to eat pork, you want to eat pork, it doesn't really matter. It's just some old school traditions that we have. There were factions of Israelites like that. There were other ones that were saying, we're just fully outright just going to join the Greek culture and live like them and abandon that book. And there were other ones that were saying, okay, we should follow the laws, but we should bring in the other nations as well. So there were different factions like that. When you go back to, I know we're talking about how they converted or forced converted those Edomites. There were factions, there were small groups that were trying to do things like that as well back then, though. So that definitely was a thing, but they were not the ones that you're spoken about in the book of Acts. All right, but let's drop that. Let's go to Acts 21 and 18. Let's go back to Acts. Acts 21 and 18. Mhm.
So you want me to go ahead?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Once you get your notes down, I'll just wait for your notes. Other than that, once you got it written down, you go ahead and read. Yeah.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 21, verse 18. And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had done among the Gentiles by his ministry.
Right. Paul come in, he's talking to James. We just read what James was saying to the 12 tribes. And Paul is telling him, at this point in time, the things that he is learning, how he's dealing with these brothers that were in the world, that were lost. Keep going.
Verse 20. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses.
Right. So this is the thing that he was hearing, that these people that are zealous of the law are saying that Paul is going out and teaching the Jews among the Gentiles to not follow the law of Moses, because he's saying things like you have to be circumcised in the heart and not in the flesh. If you were uncircumcised, you were born, and you weren't circumcised on the 8th day, you were supposed to be cast out. So some of these men may have never been circumcised or weren't circumcised on the 8th day. These men were unclean to the men that were zealous for the law. They were heathens. They were Gentiles. They were not to be dealt with. And so when Paul is going around and teaching that they can be brothers again, we can go and deal with them. No man is unclean, like Peter's vision. That they were saying that he's teaching to break the law of Moses. If Paul is teaching that Christ is the ultimate sacrifice, then to them they're hearing, okay, you don't want our people to do these sacrifices anymore. You're going against the law of Moses. But they're not understanding that. If they're saying that, okay, these men that are not of the tribe of Levi are considering themselves priests and they're out here teaching the Bible, they're going against the law of Moses. All right, but go ahead.
That's all you, sir. Is that so? Like if a person or if an Israelite is someone that eats pork and they rededicate themselves by not eating pork and following the laws of the Old Testament, in the same way, it's like once they find out that they are supposed to be circumcised, are they supposed to become circumcised? Or
okay, no, because the circumcision. Let's go to that precept. The law is supposed to be circumcised on the 8th day, for one. All right. And then that law is to represent you keeping the law. So let me see if I can find that precept real quick. And so that was some of the disputes that they were having every. In Colossians. Okay, I think Colossians 2 and 11. Let's see if that's one. There's a few different ones. So let's see what that one says.
Colossians
2 and 11, I believe. See what we got with that one. If not, we'll try this one in Galatians.
2 and 11.
Right.
Come. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 11. And whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands.
Right. Yeah.
And putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Buried with him in baptism, wherein also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who hath raised him from the dead. And you, being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, be quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses.
Right. So once again, and let me see. That's a good one right there. But it's going and talking about, so let's see, verse 11 says, in whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. So this circumcision is spiritual. Circumcision was an outward representation of something that is supposed to be inward in your spirit. So let me see. I know there's one in the Old Testament. I'll pull that one too. Romans 2 and 28.
Come.
And that's where these things, it does sound like, you see what I mean? When you are in that letter, you're like, man, this brother's teaching against the law. But why are you going out and circumcising somebody that's 28 years old when the law is to be circumcised on the 8th day? It's pointless. You're not following the law anymore. You know what I mean? Like, where's the law for that? It is not a law. You already broke the law. It's just like somebody getting tattooed and then they come into the truth. You're going to cut off their tattoos because you're not supposed to get tattooed? You understand what I'm saying? Like, how do you do that? You can't undo the law that's already been broken. You need to see what it represented then and what was its purpose then. And its purpose was to be a representation of our covenant with Abraham and the Most High, and a representation that you're going to have your son follow these laws. All right. Okay, go ahead.
So after that point, if you're someone that comes back into the truth, you should have your son circumcised then at that point.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
If you have sinned and you've been forgiven of that, you just want to correct it after that.
Correct.
Come.
Right. Yep.
So like Romans 2:28.
Mm-hmm.
Come. This is the book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 28.
Nah. Okay. Yeah, I ain't gonna say that. So like, I ain't gonna teach that. I ain't gonna say that right there. But now, you want to not be turtle headed. Pause. You know what I'm saying? You want to take it upon yourself. I don't know. You gotta seek counsel on that. That's what you want to do. But not saying you, but you know what I mean. If a brother wanted to, for whatever reason, correct it. I still would have to see, what that. I don't got that answer. But my ring. As a general now. But go ahead.
Verse 28. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God.
Right. So, and there's another precept in the Old Testament where it says he wants, I'm going to pull it too. To lock it. But read that again while I get this one too.
Verse 28. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision,
which is outwardly in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Verse
So
29.
there's not, you don't want to be an Israelite that's just an outward appearance. That's the Christian church. That's fake Israelites. That's the Sadducees and Pharisees. They have all the appearance, all the looks of a holy, righteous people, righteous nation. That's literally the people today that are the fake Jews today, the Jewish people. Like you go see them with their black hats and their curly hair. In your mind, you would think there's no way this person sells drugs. He just looks like a righteous person. Does that come to your mind? Do you think, especially being in the world, when you see one of them, do you think this person sells heroin? It just doesn't even cross your mind. But you know they sell heroin, right? Now, being in the truth, yeah, they probably the biggest dope dealers to walk planet Earth. But they have this outward appearance that looks righteous, just like the Catholic Church. I wish we could find that old meme, brothers that made it in the school. They had the Catholic priests all lined up on the top of the picture. It was split. And then they have on the bottom Captain Mawakwa and the Bar Ma, everybody black, wearing colors, looking rough, thugged out. And they're like, these are fake priests. These are the real priests. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like what you said, like in New York, in like the Orthodox neighborhoods, like I was watching something, they're talking about like that's the best place to get like illicit things that you're not supposed to, because police officers, they don't go and police those areas
right
the way that they should. Like you can get anything there.
Right. Yeah, even watching one of the episodes of Power last year with Tommy. He went to Chicago. He had his branch off of that TV show Power. And one of the guys he was going in to sell dope or buy from or whatever was them guys, the curly hat, and they work at the little kosher shop and they selling bread and all that. But in the back, they buying cocaine and doing all that. And that's just facts. I've seen it, different documentaries and cats. I just got out of jail, and same thing, man. You're like, damn, yo. Even mine, like you have to take that brainwashing out, even when you come into the truth. They used to always say that, like, I think Captain Zari used to say it in the classes a lot. He would tell people, hey, close your eyes. And when I say Jesus, what do you see? You in the truth, you know the oppressors of the devil. That image of white Jesus will still come up in your mind. And you got to work to get that brainwashing out, because they spent years and years and years of pushing that into your mind. So even myself, like when I'm seeing this guy, I'm like, damn, this guy is really a drug dealer. And then now I have to realize, like, yeah, I should see him as a drug dealer first. Before he got to prove to me he's not a drug dealer. He got to prove to me he's not a child molester. He got to prove to me he's not a rapist or a murderer, as opposed to me being shocked that he is one. You know what I mean? And that's what we should see, because they have this outward appearance, but it's not adding up to what's really going on in the world. So yeah. So we don't want to focus on that outward appearance, because that's how people get away with those things. That's how the Catholic Church is able to molest all these children, because the outward appearance is they got the little white tie and they look soft and they don't look like they look harmless, and people offer their children up to them to go and be with Father so and so because you trust him. He's a good guy. Look how he dresses. Look how he is. Look how he talks. Of course, he wouldn't do anything wrong. In reality, he's doing the most evil thing on the planet Earth. All right. So where we at?
29.
Yep.
But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly.
Right. I think that's John, the first chapter, 1:47. Around there, it talks about Nathaniel, who was an Israelite indeed. It is one thing to be of the bloodline of Israel, but it's another thing to live as a true Israelite, as a true Jew, to do what the Lord wants you to be. All right. Keep going.
And circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God.
Right. And so let me see if I got that. Jeremiah 4:4. Yep, Jeremiah 4:4. This is where they get that precept. Go ahead when you got it. Oh yeah, when you take your notes too.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 4, verse 4. Circumcise yourselves to the Lord and take away the foreskins of your heart.
Right, like this is what Jeremiah is saying. All these people, Israelites, all of them already have been circumcised on the 8th day. They all have the physical representation of a circumcision, but he's telling them to circumcise your goddamn heart, man. You hate your brother. You're going out having adultery. You're swindling these people for money. You're passing judgment for money and not for righteousness. This person comes in, he's got money, he gives you money, he pays you off. Yeah, you know he was sleeping with this other guy's wife, but he's cashing out the priest. The priests are taking money. This other kid over here, he done stole something. You want to cut his damn hand off. You know what I mean? You want to put him to death for stealing because he's poor. You want to fall. That's the letter of the law. Oh, you're picking corn on the Sabbath and you're hungry. We're gonna kill you. This dude over here and then slept with 4 brothers' wives, but he's rich and we're not going to say anything about it. He's telling them to circumcise their hearts and get rid of that foreskin on your heart, man, and take away the foreskins of your heart. Keep going.
Ye men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can quench. That none can quench it because of the evil of your doing.
Right. And so once again, this makes me think, even on the way over here to class, I don't know how the heck I'm on Facebook, man, but there was a lot of traffic. But I ended up looking at Facebook and there's some sister, she made a comment on another brother's post, and I looked further deep into what she was saying. And long story short, going down her timeline, she was like, she's a fake Israelite. She's like, you can't eat Hot Pockets because it has L-cysteine, dimethylene, some word, and you look into that, where does it come from? It comes from pig hair. And I'm like, okay. I put in her comments like, nah, pig hair is not unlawful. I just want to see, she might have said something back now. I just want to see, because she's out here teaching something that's not a law. She's adding to the law, and she feels so righteous and so better than everyone else in the world. But the weightier matters of the law, give me that one too. Give me Matthew 23 and 23. Some of my favorite precepts are. The weightier matters of the law, people don't want to worry about that. But all her life, she's going to sit there and become damn near schizophrenic. And that's what General Muhammad says, like, you become so superstitious, even with the laws of the Bible, that you're going out here and finding something that's been cooked down and boiled into this and turned into that. It's called a whole nother chemical. It's damn near not even that anymore. It's like we're all made of carbon, whatever. Like you can find certain things are in everything. Which is the most? I think is carbon the most on the periodic table. Like carbon is number 1, right? Hydrogen is number 1, right? But one of them is like in damn near. Yeah, it's like that's everywhere. I was not good at chemistry. That was one of my weaknesses. But at some point, when you get to an elemental level, we are all the same. There's no difference between me and this table at some elemental. You understand what I mean? And so, go ahead.
The tittles.
What's that?
Like the tittles, like the small things.
Oh, 1.1 tittle, is that what you said? How do you mean that?
It's like worrying about something that isn't unlawful, but it's like you're like, okay, it's close enough where I'm gonna make it unlawful.
No, that's different. This is one where he said about to establish your own righteousness. I think that's Romans, it says more of that. Because Christ said not one jot nor one tittle. So everything in the law stands. But when people try to go and establish their righteousness, or they say over much righteous, that's the precepts that go with that. It's like they're trying to establish their own righteousness and saying things like when they said Christ and his men didn't wash their hands
Con.
before they eat. They tried to make that a law. That's not a law. You understand? It's a tradition. And is it cool? Yeah, maybe you should wash your hands. But don't teach it like it's a law. If you don't want to eat food that has pig hair in it, that's fine. But don't turn it into a law, because now you are putting people. That's the only reason why I said it, was because people in the comments were like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that. Well, I shouldn't even be eating Hot Pockets anymore anyway." But she's teaching something like she's goddamn Moses. She really shouldn't be anyway. And then now you can redirect somebody's whole life, even though maybe Hot Pockets aren't the most healthiest thing. But don't teach it as a law. You understand? Because eating pig hair is not unlawful. If you eat the flesh of a pig, it's unlawful. How do we know this? Paul had a garment made of camel hair. Can you eat camel? But you can wear a garment with it, because his hair is not his flesh. It's a difference. You can have a goose down fur. Can you eat goose? La. You understand? You can have a pillow made of goose fur. You can have a brush made of pig hair. But you didn't turn into, like, they had a movie where the guy, he sees the number 23 everywhere, or he sees 22, like, you just see pork everywhere. You paranoid, you know what I mean? And you really missing the real spirit of what that was about. And it's turning you into something else. And you're gonna turn the law into to be a way to oppress people and make yourself feel good. And you're gonna look down on these people like that sister that sees the lemodimethylene, whatever the hell it was, citrine pig hair. Can you imagine how she looks at her cousin that eats ribs? Like, in her mind, she sees a filthy, disgusting, damn near she don't want to touch you because you eat ribs, as opposed to seeing, bitch, you were a monster with your husband last night over nothing. You are horrible with your children. You are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have not talked to your mother in 2 years. Like, you are a horrible person, but you don't eat Hot Pockets. That makes you good. That makes you better than everybody else in the world that eats Hot Pockets and eats ribs and eats pork and all this, when your spirit is corrupt. You know what I mean? And that's Matthew 23 and 23.
That's lucky, sir.
Go ahead, you got, yeah.
Definitely want to, like, almost be superstitious about it.
Oh, definitely. That's it. That's it. That's what people become, and that's what they had turned into. And it's that's why when Christ is saying, like, the Sabbath, all this stuff was going over their heads, and to them at that time it sounded evil, and that's why they wanted to kill him. So it was half and half. Some people wanted to kill him because they knew they had a position of power and that they, you know, really sold out to work with the Romans. And some of them were like genuinely zealous for the law, like Paul was when he was Saul. It wasn't because he sold out. It's because he was reading these things and seeing these things, and these guys are saying this stuff, and I'll kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, how dare you go against the law? But that's how we're supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to stop anybody that comes and do this. Like, we're supposed to put you down, knock you down. And I could understand it being in the truth. Like, if someone walked in front of the camp and was like, I'm Jesus, he's like, nigga, I'll kill you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he really started trying to, you know, this dude is smoking weed. There's a dude that comes to our camp that actually says that. He says his name is Yaju or something like that. Comes to try to battle Captain Zara, don't even know where the revelations are different between Deuteronomy or none of that. Like, he's smoking weed, got these women, and he's saying he's Christ. It's like, you love Christ so much, you would want to stop a man like that. You know what I mean? By any means necessary, but it's only because we follow Christ that we spare his life. You know what I mean? But that's how zealous they were for the law. And so we get it, we understand it. But once you get to that point, you're going to miss what the law was for. It was not to oppress people, it was to help people. But when you get it to that point, you're turning it as a way to hurt people. You're like, ooh, I can't wait. And that's the spirit of fake Israelites today in a lot of ways. and it explains that out with Nathaniel and IUIC, the roots of the second fake Israelite group he branched off to. So first he left to the house of David with Mashah, and after Mashah died, they came into something called the 12 tribes, and they said they used to only wear fringes, and it was so cool to hear it from someone else, even though we always teach it. And that's another thing, like, so One West is like, all right, I'm riding with it. Okay, this is what we say. And Captain Katazan says, he's like, man, sometimes Muhammad will say something. He said, I don't even understand it, but I'm just count out of one count. And he said, and later on, and now I see it and understand it. It's like, okay, we beef with the cats with the fringes on their shirts, and we say, it's supposed to be only on a garment. I'm like, Most High, hey, man, we with that. These cats is weird. It looks weird on the shirt. I don't like it. I'm One West. I might be young in the truth. I don't quite understand it because the law does say you are supposed to wear fringes throughout your generations. But then when you see them explain it and then they verify what we teach, it's like, damn, this is the home of the truth. And they basically said that in the original school, they only wore fringes on their garments, their priestly garments. It wasn't something you did every day, but they wanted to separate themselves from everyone else. And that's what we always taught in the UPK. The people that wear fringes on their shirts, the reason why we go so hard at them is because that fringe on their shirt was the sign of their separation from the UPK. Them saying shalom to everyone else, when I used to watch all different fake Israelite groups, I think the first time I called in, I probably said shalom on the phone because I thought that was the majority of what I see. So I'm thinking this is the way it should be. The majority of the people have fringes on their shirts, so I tried to cut some fringes on my shirt. Then you come here, and this is the minority now. Now we're the ones that are not wearing fringes on our shirts. We're the ones that don't say shalom, so we're weird. But in reality, they're weird. They're just so many different branches that they look like the norm. So in the thing, and I think I saw you raise your hand too. Please don't forget what you wanted to say. But he basically said they wanted to separate themselves from everyone else, and that them putting the fringes on their shirts every day allowed them to not talk to people that didn't have fringes on their shirts. And they say, okay, you don't got fringes on your shirts. We're not the same. Look down on you. You're in the world. Won't have no parts to deal with you. And that's exactly the spirit of how they deal with you. They were like, where your fringes at? Where your fringes at? Whole time, this nigga was on Pornhub 8 hours a day last week. This nigga talking about where you goddamn fringes at. This nigga slapped his wife. You understand? 2 days ago. Where your fringes at? This nigga can't stop smoking weed, but he don't see no fringes on you, no outward appearance. He feels superior to you and can check you and thinks he can check you about that. So, do you remember your point?
Colin, I was going to ask is, can you compare that to Jonah and how he was after God declared Nineveh?
I think I'm with you. What do you mean? A little bit more.
As in, like where he was, even though the Ninevites were changing their ways, he was still waiting for God to destroy them.
Right.
Because he felt like, so I'm not sure that's what I felt.
I kind of see, like, you're saying that it's close. It's definitely in the lines of that spirit, meaning like Jonah, he didn't want to be wrong. It was a pride thing. And so he almost didn't care that the Lord was saving the people. Yeah, that's the spirit of Sadducees and Pharisees had in a lot of ways. They didn't want to save people's lives. They'd rather harm somebody's life. They didn't like when Christ drew the line in the sand and said, cast the first stone, because then they realized there were some things that they needed to change, as opposed to just saying, okay, we can focus on what's wrong with her and we can feel better about ourselves by harming her. And that's that spirit. But Jonah was a little bit more, it's all in that same, I'll definitely, you can connect it somewhere.
All
right. Let's go to Matthew 23:23.
Come. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees,
Right.
for ye pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law,
Right.
judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone.
Right. So the instructions coming to them because they say they're so righteous. They pay tithes, mint, anise, cumin. They do everything to the letter of the law, but you've omitted the weightier matters. These things are extremely important. These are the human elements of it. You can pay all the tithes. You can do all these little things and have the fringes on your shirt, but the fringes is supposed to represent your spirit and how you deal with your brothers. Not the Lord's not looking at your fringes and you being a horrible brother and thinking you good. That's superstition. You reverted to it's damn near nine to idol worship. Like you've gone into something else. Like this one, I didn't eat pork, I didn't eat the hot pockets, I didn't do that. You understand? So I'm good. I'm getting on the chariots. She's a horrible person. You know what I mean? She doesn't have any mercy. She doesn't have any grace. She looks at her cousin. You ate pork for 25 years, 30 years of your life. You come in the truth for 6 months, and now your cousin is a horrible person because they still eat pork in the world. And they don't want to listen to your broke down. We don't call them breakdowns. They got broke down in John 3:16 from us. It's not even a real breakdown. They broke it down to her wrong, and they're like, oh man, they 2/3. That's the word. That's another one. The 2/3. That whole spirit. Everybody's the 2/3. Because you watch videos of Sakari on YouTube. There's one girl come in front of the camp, don't want to hear the camp. She's 16, 17, cussing out everybody in the comments. She 2/3. That's what's wrong with Israel. That's what's wrong with Israel. 2/3. They all gonna have to burn. Nigga, you might be the 2/3, the one typing it right now. And she might make it on the chariot. Because you don't have no mercy and no nothing for her. And she might have done something to help the prophets of the Lord one day, or she may have done this to help us and gain a prophet's reward. That's another precept. But so, did you have another song?
I had a question. So with this precept, I remember in one of the classes someone asked, and it was explained that there are some sins greater than others. In the same way, he used this precept to show that some laws are greater than others.
Some sin, the wages of sin is death. So that's a tricky one. You don't want to say some sin is greater than another. You want to say some sin's judgment at the time is heavier according to the law. Like if you ate pork, you take a bath, by sundown, you're clean. If you commit adultery, you need to be put to death at that time. If you do some homosexuality, you should be put to death at that time. So it's like these sins will destroy our nation quicker as a whole if you let it grow in the nation. But you continually eat pork is just as bad in essence. Or you, whatever these lower level sins in the long run, it's all going to destroy us. So it's hard to say it like that. What exactly do you remember hearing? Someone asked that.
Someone asked if some sins are greater than others. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the answer was yes, because some punishments are greater than other punishments.
Okay, you remember who was teaching that?
I believe it was Salaki. It was either Adawan or Captain Tazariak or Adawan or General Tulsho General behind him. Okay,
so I'm gonna have to see what, and I'm not sure. Like I said, what I've always remember hearing was that you don't want to say it like that. This sin is greater than the other because all sin is wages of death, right? So at some point in time, but our punishments were different because how dangerous those crimes are at that specific time if it happens like that. But what it's like going back to what, so you're saying the weightier matters of the law, meaning reread the last part where it says, and these ought ye to have done. Mm-hmm.
Salaki. Text that a little higher.
Yeah, go ahead. You read it from the top.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, for ye pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith.
Mm-hmm.
These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the others undone.
Right. So don't not follow the laws. That's not wrong to do. Christ said, do as the Sadducees and Pharisees, do the things that they tell you to do, but don't do the things that they do because they're hypocrites. So he's talking about the hypocrisy here, that you feel like you're righteous because you're doing these laws, but you're missing these ones, which is just as important, if not more important, because it's that human element factor. So, yeah, no. Is it that, you know?
No.
Okay.
Salaki, just to confirm.
Okay.
So there's no laws that are greater than others. It's just they're all important.
Christ said that the greatest two commandments are love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. These are the greatest two commandments. So, because everything else falls in with it. So it's kind of, that's the spirit you want to read this in. If you have mercy, judgment, what does it say? Is you have judgment, mercy, and faith, you're not going to eat pork, and you're going to treat your family with brotherhood. You know what I mean? But if you just focus on not eating pork, you can do that and not have any brotherhood. So just getting in priority. Seeing, you see what I mean? Like, he's not saying don't follow the law, just like with the fringes. We can wear fringes and it's good to have fringes. But if you put the fringes, that outwardly thing first, you're going to miss the purpose of the law. And the spirit of the law is people first. Everything else we do is to help the people. Not we do these things to hurt the people. Let's think of it that way. So it's just prioritizing people first, the actions second. The actions are here to help the people.
Right.
It's a cycle. Those hand in hand.
Don't contradict.
Yeah. You never go wrong with that. So Lockie, I know we getting late, so with that, just go out and close. Please, I can give you some more precepts after this. If you want me to go over them next week, just let me know. But for the people out online, if y'all got a pen, you can run it back. I think we stopped at Acts 21 and 18. I don't know if we went over that one. I think we started it. But Acts 21 and 18, Hosea 1 and 10. I'll let you write it down. I'll give it to you after that. I'm just going to close the class. I'm just reading quick for them. So Acts 21, 18, Hosea 1 and 10, Romans 9 and 25, Acts 15 and 4, Amos 9 and 9, Ephesians 2 and 11, Acts 13 and 26, and Isaiah 14 and 1. All right. But definitely probably go over some of these at the beginning of next week. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and salute everybody online. Brothers and sisters, Yahweh Shem Yashai, Baruch Thumb to all the brothers, and Yahweh Shemar and Thumb, Baruch Shem Yashai to all the sisters. All right, with that, class is dismissed.
Most High in Christ, sir.